Welcome to video 2 on solving equations using multiplication and division. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, just a quick reminder, as I go through these examples, you might want to put your pens, your pencils, your markers, your crayons, everything you're using to make wonderful, awesome, high quality notes. You want to put those down, watch each example, listen to what I'm saying, and then pause it, pick it up, complete it, and go to the next one. There's only 4 of them, 5 counting the last real-life application. So this isn't going to take that long. It won't add a lot of time for you to do that, and it will make things better for you. So here we go. We're going to write the word sentence as an equation. And ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to put it in there. One of Mr. Ross's brain farts, then solve. I wish I were perfect. I'm not. We're just going to keep rolling. Every time we make a simple mistake, we keep rolling, and we try to make that something that we don't repeat in the future. So, writing the word sentence as an equation, then solve. Number 5, the product of negative 12 and a number is negative 84. Notice I made a mistake the first time I was reading, so I stopped, I went back, and I reread for understanding. You need to do that. If you need to read that question 2 or 3 times, make sure you do that. The product of negative 12 and a number is negative 84. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the examples that we're doing right now, we're just starting out writing word sentences as equations. They're going to make it a little bit more straightforward because it's usually going to be written in the order that your math sentence will be written. All right, so when I think about this, as I mark my text, it says the product. I know product is the answer to a multiplication question of negative 12 and a number. Ooh, they didn't give me what letter represents that unknown number. Uh-oh, what am I going to do now? That's right, you're going to pick one. The most common one is X. Some people use N, some people use S, some people use R. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't matter, but don't waste time thinking about it. Just put one there. Make your math quicker. Is, that's our equal sign, negative 84. So the product of negative 12 and my unknown number is negative 84. I come over here and I say to myself, I am multiplying by a negative 12. The inverse of that is to divide by a negative 12. And ladies and gentlemen, some of you are doing this and some of you are not. I hope you are. It's going to help you when we get to the more challenging problems that have 2, 3, 4 multi-steps that we have to follow through to do them in the right order. Or to do them in a right order that's not just the right order. All right, so I'm multiplying by negative 12 to isolate. I'm going to divide by negative 12. I'm going to do it to both sides to keep my equation balanced. Negative 12 divided by negative 12 simplifies to 1, leaving me with X. And negative 84 divided by a negative 12 is going to be a positive. You guys know the answer. You know your facts. It is 7. Going to our next question. Number 6, a number multiplied by 7/8 is negative 4 and 1/2. So, again, I'm going to mark my text. A number, I'm going to just choose X and make it simple. Multiplied by 7/8 is a negative 4 and 1/2. So as I write this, I could go X times 7/8 this way. However, in algebra, you're going to be learning there is a standard way of writing it. It doesn't mean it's the only way, it's just the standard way, and that is to make 7/8, since you're multiplying it, make that the coefficient, because we always multiply the coefficient in the variable. So this one right here is more standard. This one is not wrong. We know multiplication is commutative. Is negative 4 and 1/2. So I'm multiplying by 7/8. The inverse is to divide by 7/8. And I went ding, ding, ding. Little bells and whistles went off in my head, because anytime I see division by a fraction, I know I'm going to change it to multiplication by the reciprocal. All right? So I'm going to come over here, divide by 7/8. It's just easier to divide something by itself, leaving you with X. You know that if you put 8 7s here, that the 8s would simplify to 1, the 7s would simplify to 1, leaving you with X as well. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to actually change it now to multiplying by 7/8. But I recognize I need to make improper, so this is going to equal a negative 9/2 times 8 7s. And I recognize that I can simplify. Dividing by 2, dividing by 2 gives me 1 there, and 4 here. So my final answer is the negative 36 over 7, which does simplify. So X does equal a negative 5 and 1/7. Moving on to example 7. A number divided by 20 is negative 13. Let's go with purple. So a number, again, I'm just going to pick X, divided by, I'm going to use my division sign. 20 is negative 13. So once again, I can write it this way, X divided by a negative 13, or I can write it the fraction looking way, X divided by a negative 13. That's the way I like it, but you got to pick the way you like. And that's going to equal is negative Almost divided by the wrong number. You guys, I had a brain fart. Oh, I bet you were yelling at me and screaming, Mr. Ross, you're writing the wrong number. Oh my gosh. So I'm glad we fixed it. We're going with 20 is a negative 13. Wow, got it right. So I'm dividing by 20. The inverse is to multiply by 20. Now that we got that straightened out. So I'm going to multiply by 20 both sides. 1 to isolate, leaving me with x. 2 to keep it balanced. And that gives me a negative 260. I know multiplying by a power of 10, I can just add the 0 on the end. So 2 times 13 is 26. It is negative, and I can add that 0, negative 260. Let's go to example number 8. The quotient of a number and negative 13 is negative 5.4. You can have fun reading this stuff sometimes as well. So let's pick a different color. Let's go boring black. How about that? The quotient I'm dividing of a number, x, and negative 13 is negative 5.4. Something to bring up here. When it says the quotient, we know quotient is the answer to a division problem. But then we know that division is not commutative. So order does matter. You cannot take 2 divided by 1 is not the same as 1 divided by 2. So since order matters, the first number listed is the dividend. The second one is the divisor. So this one has to be x divided by a negative 13 or x over negative 13. Because those are not the same as negative 13 divided by x. Not the same. Equals, you know I like to do it like a fraction, because it is a negative 5.4. So I am multiplying by a negative 13. The inverse is to divide by a negative 13. Whoops. Another brain fart. Holy smokers, Mr. Ross. Whoops, holy smokers, Mr. Ross. I'm dividing by a negative 13. So the inverse is to multiply by a negative 13. That's good when we catch ourselves. So multiplying both sides by a negative 13, 1 to isolate, and that leaves us with x, and the other to keep balanced, and a negative 5.4 times 13 is 70.2, because negative times a negative is positive. Going to our last real-life application, the record low temperature in Nevada is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The record low temperature in Montana is 1.4 times the record low temperature for Nevada. What is the record low temperature for Montana? And remember, the question tells you what the variable represents, because that's the answer that you need. So I'm going to use my variable x again, and that's the Montana temperature. Montana. All right? And I'm going to read it again so I can get my sentence going. Nevada is negative 50. The record low temperature for Montana is. So Montana is, there's my equal sign, 1.4 times the temperature for Nevada. Well, we know Nevada is negative 50. Bam, so I can substitute that in. All right? So here we have it. It doesn't look like we've been doing so far today, but based on what it says and how it says it, we would write the record low temperature in Montana is 1.4 times Nevada. And when we do that math, we get that Montana is a negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Record low for Montana. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, your quick write tonight. And Mr. Ross seemingly has another brain fart because you don't see anything there. So here we go. We're going to do C part 1, C part 2. I'm not going to give you a word sentence because I'm not going to write it down all day. I'm just going to give you a couple of problems. The first one's going to be easier. And I'm going to say, hey, x divided by 5 is equal to negative 2. Solve that one. And the second one is going to be negative a equals negative 24. All right. Outstanding. Make sure you come to class with questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any regarding solving equations, remember to begin your assignment when you're done. If you do 8 to 10 problems, you're doing great. If you come to one that you don't understand, you skip it after about 30 seconds of trying, and you star that one and say, hey, I'm going to ask Mr. Ross in class. Always using aggressiveness and urgency, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're focused, using that time effectively to be accountable. You guys are great. You know what? I don't say it enough, and I hope you really believe it because it's absolutely true. All right? You wouldn't be here if it weren't true. You just have to make sure you keep making those choices. Ladies and gentlemen, see you tomorrow.